Mike's on.
Okay. So this is the June meeting of the legal committee, 6 p.m., June 18th. Roll call. We have Jenny, Jason, Margaret, waiting for Claire. And that's it, we can start. So we have two items on the agenda this evening. New business, we have center lines on roadways. Jason has a number of things to present relating to that. So we will start with that.
Okay.
Is that's Carol, that's the only, Carol is the only person from the public, okay.
I'm gonna ask Logan to start with some photos to help define what the problem. Just go to the next one, I think it starts, this one's,
81.
Uh,
all right, so,
What's the electronic name?
81 Green Street.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
These are so there's been a pattern, this accident here, I happen to witness myself. A teacher around the corner up near Fairview sent me a photo of his car, I'll show you in a minute. But the white pickup truck on the right, was just driving in the parking spaces of Green Street. Ran into the back of that Jeep pickup truck, pushed it 25 feet, it hit the big pickup truck on the left, moved that 10 feet, just straight into the back of it. And that's the type of accident that's really intense. And when I found out about the other accidents that are similar, you can go to please 128 Green Street. You can see this is coming actually away from Fairview in the other direction. There's actually a center line, but there's no white lines, so I didn't correct Margaret in the labeling of this, but I'm headed towards not only wanting center lines, but white lines. And there's a couple of reasons, but you can see this is a very similar accident where someone is totally left the lane, they're driving in the parking lane, and they just completely crash straight into the back of someone. And then the first picture that you showed was a little less dramatic. They caught the corner of it at 63 Green Street. It's more like half on. Part of the reason I think we have this challenge is there's no lines, but when we do opposite side parking, we often have one side of the street that's completely open. Except for maybe one person who hasn't either is early, has forgot to move their car. And people get very used to driving either in the breakdown lane or the parking lane, or they end up driving straight down the middle of the road. So it increases our speeds because people aren't, could you show traffic and parking on Green Street, that image? So here's an example. The person on the right is parked up on the sidewalk because they've been working at Devereaux House there.
I'm sorry, what's this one called?
Parking and traffic and parking on Green. So the vehicle on the right, the white car, is parked up on the sidewalk because she's lost mirrors, she's lost.
I've seen that a lot on Green.
Yeah, and then the one on the other side, you see is driving 4 feet from the curb. That's actually a moving vehicle and is not in what would be considered the lane. So this is not the only, Green Street is not the only street that's challenged with this. I did FOIA requests with the police department because that was the only way I could get the information. There's about 10 similar accidents over the past 5 years, some on State, Prospect. And so I don't know how we want to equate like the volume of the problem, but it's a problem because of the intensity of the accidents in my mind. So I did some research on the laws behind this. We can open up, please, the MUTCD. So I've highlighted areas. The MUTCD is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. It is a federal standard for these things, for lines and signs and things like that. It's picked up by the state of New York. They can't reduce it, they can only add to it, which they have. They have some laws that they add to it. And, the first paragraph that's highlighted says, that you shall have lines on roads with 6,000 vehicles a day or more. And you should have lines on roads that have 4,000 vehicles a day or more. It took me a while to figure that out, but that's legalese. Shall means must and should means it's a good idea. So you look at the Hudson roadways with 6,000 plus, please. The other, image.
This one?
Yeah,
Is it called the Hudson Roadway Count?
yep. Hudson roadways with 6,000 plus. So I've circled, you can see coming on Worth Avenue, 3rd Street, Green Street, Prospect Avenue, Fairview as well. It doesn't have the traffic count on this image, but Fairview is also, a high volume road. And interestingly enough, Columbia is not over 6,000. I'm not quite sure what's happening there, but, I'm interested in starting the discussion on what approach we want to take to this. Someone pointed out there's no MUTCD police running around checking your roadways. But, if someone thinks about this correctly, it could be a legal issue for the city, for not having it. And I think it is a good idea, and I think I've shown that there is a problem. I have data on I have all the traffic accident reports that are applicable. So I think there are a few different ways we could go about this. I would like to start with the idea of Green, Prospect, Upper Warren. Again, Upper Warren doesn't have a number, but it has to be over 6,000 because it's Worth Avenue on down and basically the truck route. 3rd Street's a little weird because it has some lines and it's also off center. But I'd like to talk about whether somehow figuring a way to do Green, Prospect and Upper Warren, because Worth Avenue already has lines. And then we could talk about the next level of whether we want to try to put something on the books to do shoulds. Like I said, I saw many accidents on State Street, with a similar issue. We could look at trying to add lines everywhere, little by little. It is a budgetary thing. We do need to maintain lines. I'd like to talk about ways to add to, I believe there's a $7,000 a year budget for painting. I know the mayor would like to see more crosswalks. I'd like to find a way to increase that budget line item.
Well, we could with Pila.
We could with Pila. We'll talk about that next. So do you guys have any as a committee?
An observation on 128 Green Street.
Yes?
Beautiful, that because this actually illustrates the issue. So I do think that we need sentiments, and you and I have talked about it. And Green is particularly tricky because of the carbon,
Yes.
and it's tricky in terms of potential accidents for traffic traveling in opposite directions, because coming around that curve, people tend to drive in the center of the road.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Sorry. So I definitely think the yellow lines are needed to divide the roads. However, this picture shows you a different problem, which is people driving in what could be perceived as a parking lane.
It is
It's not-
absolutely.
but it's not marked as such.
Yeah.
But they are driving it. And even having a yellow line here didn't prevent the accident. That's a different problem.
Yeah.
And so why that occurs on Green so much, I don't know. Because on Union, we have a similar situation where you can only park on one side of the street on some of them. And then below the courthouse, you can park on both sides of the street. But I have never seen anyone driving in what is understood to be the side that we park on, you know what I'm saying?
I think it's because there are so many more cars on Union that are parked. First of all, and second of all, you have to go slower, especially on Lower Union.
Once you go below the courthouse, you have to
Yeah.
go. But all I'm saying, I'm just like using this as an example, that the yellow lines alone don't solve this.
They don't.
And, on green, you can park on both sides of the street, correct, except for the alternate side of the street lights?
Yeah, which is every night.
But, right, but during the daytime, you can.
The
park
other,
on both
the other thing that's unique about green is much of it is commercial traffic. So at nighttime, green is pretty open.
Right.
There can be like almost no cars parked. There'll be one or two and that,
Right,
and so people can even get used to it at night.
people don't perceive that as a position that people park in on green. So I
Yeah.
think green has a slightly different problem than some of the others, because we don't really see that level of accident on the other streets.
No, it's a little bit on state.
Yes.
State is similar, it's just not as big a road and it has more stop signs.
So I think in addition to the yellow line on green, there needs to be some demarcation also. on
I
the
agree.
Parking side, so that you have, I don't know how wide the street is, whether
It's plenty wide, so it's 40,
is it wide enough to demarcate
yeah.
a parking lane on both sides plus having lanes?
Yeah, so it's a 40-foot road.
Okay.
There's 2 8-foot for parking,
Yeah, yeah.
16,
And it's still over 20.
still over 20.
Yeah, no, so I think that, I don't think yellow lines be sufficient at green.
No.
That's all I'm saying.
I think in general, and I don't think we wanna make spaces like,
No.
like on Warren, I think it's just a.
No.
Rob calls it a fog line, which I've never really heard before, but.
The white line is.
The white line is the fog line.
But, I mean, we could even just have something that's, I don't know if it's legal, but maybe it's some kind of stencil that says parking on either side, you know,
If you have the white lines, I think it's implied, I think people understand it to be.
yeah.
Sorry, can we hold for a moment? Is there a call in, has Ken been able to join in?
No,
Is there a phone number that you can call in on?
I'll call my phone, I'll call someone's phone.
no, just a meeting ID.
Um.
You can join on its phone through the city calendar.
Wait, he's having trouble logging in from his phone.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna see if he wants me to call and put him on speaker. Hang on a second.
I know this isn't the same thing, but one of,
Can we hold 1 second?
sure,
Do you want me to just put you on speaker? Okay. Yeah, you can, why don't you listen to it afterwards in that case? I can put you on speaker, but if,
I would not at all mind his advice.
oh,
There he is.
you're showing up. Let me hang up and see if you can hear. Sir Ken, can you hear us? Ken,
He just had to unmute himself.
you have to unmute yourself.
He just unswapped.
Just for my side. Let's just put you on speaker. Hang on. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So we just took a look at some of the photographs and documentation that Jason presented with the language from the federal language that roads with 6K or more shall put in dividing lines. We looked at some accidents on Green Street. We were just discussing the fact that Green has some unique problems, but Green, even with a yellow line down the middle, still have accidents of cars driving in what really should be considered a parking lane, but treating it as a driving lane. And so the picture that we were looking at was 128 Green, which shows a parked car being rear-ended by a car that was driving in what would ordinarily be considered a parking lane. And so that's where the conversation is right now. Go ahead, Jenny, your reasons. Yes, correct. No, these are all city streets. Well, we're focused a lot, the images are pretty much from Green, but one of the documents that we looked at is called Hudson roadways with 6,000 plus, right? So that one shows Third Street, Worth, Green, Prospect.
That's a continuation
Yeah.
of Green into
Yeah.
Clavera.
And yeah, so that highlights.
Some of them already have lines.
Green has lines some of the way,
Very short.
but it's only a partial line. Most of them do not have lines.
Worth has lines.
Some of them do, some of them do not. And the idea here is, should we be looking at, for the streets that meet the criteria that should have a line down the center? Should we be doing that and discussing with BEA a way to find funding to put in, striping down the center of any street that has 6K or more?
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, you know, I mean, that's the standard and they're city streets you've got control over, so I think that makes a lot of sense, so.
I think there are streets that don't have 6,000. I do have concerns about. I think
Yeah,
Upper Columbia and State are of a similar nature. So I don't know as a council what we would want to do if we want to go that far. I like, we can start with 6,000 and talk. It's all money. It's all,
Yeah, we need money.
if we pave a street, we could say something about paving should include lines because it would get paid for by chips.
I don't know, it doesn't seem that painting lines would be terribly expensive.
But we have a very limited budget for it. So the issue with including it as a requirement when a street is paved is that CHIPS money can be used for that, but CHIPS money cannot be used to renew something or redo something in less than 10 years. So it cannot be used to, if, for example, if you're not repaving Green, you can't use CHIP money to put in lines. So we would have to, yeah. So I do not think so. I don't.
But that's the interpretation that
I
we
think
have.
don't. Let's give it. That we could do it on new paved roads, but then we couldn't refresh the lines using CHIPS money. And that's why we have a separate budget for painting of crosswalks and stuff like that. It doesn't come out of CHIPS.
I believe that budget currently is annually $7,000. I mean, I think a start of doubling that would not be that hard to imagine.
Right.
We could ask for a budget from Rob. What would it take to
Yeah.
strike
The first.
Green, Prospect, Third?
Yeah.
And any of these that are marked.
Mhm.
Upper Warren, I think, is on the list.
Mhm.
I think I always want to do
Warren
more.
doesn't run into as many problems though.
Who doesn't?
Warren. Because I think one of the big challenges on Green is that it's not straight.
Well, I agree. Green is not,
Warren is straight, it's predictable.
yeah,
You can see cars parked on both sides of the street.
I agree. There's one benefit to stripes. Another benefit is traffic calming.
Oh, I think stripes are great. I'm just saying as I go through the priority list,
Yeah,
things that we absolutely should do.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
yeah, I would start my priority list, and everyone knows I live on Green Street, the Green Prospect. Then I think I would go Warren because I think it has the volume.
Yeah.
But I'm also concerned about Upper Columbia near the hospital and State Street.
Yes,
But that would be the priority list, and maybe it's worth getting a budget.
right. But let's, our next step, let's ask Ralph what it would cost.
Okay.
And this is the but I mean, see lines being done all the time. You know, I don't know how you get a hold of one of the trucks that does it, but I mean, a ride down, a mile down the street or half a mile or something doesn't seem like it would be that big a budget. But anyway, that's a different question. But I think, Jason has flagged a good thing here where there's a national standard that should be lined above 6,000. It's probably something you want to be in compliance with. That would probably be helpful in the case of an accident if anyone raised that issue. So it probably is a wise thing to pursue, at least, from a legal thing. I don't see any impediments to doing it. If it's a city street that you have control over, and those are the standards.
There was another accident right where near the Rosary, which is the 128, that, the police would not send me the image of because it's pending investigation and
What's on Warren?
on Green, right where this,
Oh,
right in front of the Rosary, the old Rosary.
The flower
the
shop.
flower shop, I said groceries.
And that just happened 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know what that really means from the police department as far as what the pending legal issue is there, but, there is something going on with that.
Yeah, well, green is definitely the worst, no question about that.
So if that's the start, let's start with,
Can you
Getting the
follow up
budget.
with Rob and get money?
and we'll do it through the other committee.
Yes, exactly.
So thank you, that's what I wanted to put out there, I thought so. Jenny, did you have something else, because you started to speak?
Well, the big problem we have is always the money. And for 3 years, I've been talking about pileup as a way to put money together for traffic calming, for pedestrian safety, for other things, not just parking. Although that needs help too.
Yeah.
So I know it's not the same thing, but the new biking, the trail there, I can't remember what it's called. It's in my neighborhood. My neighbors are very upset because there's no sidewalk. People are driving on it because
the Empire
nothing's, what?
Empire?
Yes, the Empire Trail, thank you. And that also needs to be painted. Just to differentiate it from the street, because people are thinking that you're able to drive on it, and they are. I actually saw the police park there one day. So I just, yeah, there's more than one thing that needs to be painted, just to keep people safe.
Yeah, I think if we can find a way through the BEA process to keep a budget.
The first thing is to get the funding.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going, is there any hands raised, any public comment on this?
I would just say it's the drivers. If you got about 10 accidents in 2 years, I mean, how do you rear end a car? So I don't know that you can hear the drivers. I don't know that stripes you can fix the, 1/10 or 1/100 of 1% driver that's driving erratically.
So our next agenda item is Jenny has some documents ready to payment in parking. I don't know where you want to start there, Jenny. I'm just gonna run out and get lost.
Well, there are 3 documents. Have you been able to read them? Anyone?
Yeah, I read all of them.
Okay, great. The first document is a proposal.
Which electronic name do you want? Payment in lieu of parking draft?
Yeah. That's a proposal. Within that proposal. I won't read the whole thing, obviously, it's really long. I put together a summary document. The city of Hudson faces increasing pressure to balance housing production, historic preservation, walkability, economic development, and parking demand. Many infill residential projects, adaptive reuse developments, and mixed-use buildings are constrained by small lots, historic building footprints, and limited opportunities to provide off-street parking. A payment in lieu of parking program would allow developers to contribute fees when required parking cannot reasonably be provided. Funds would be dedicated to parking and mobility improvements. So that goes to what we were just talking about, as well as other things that we never have money for. So I think, I don't know where you guys want to start. I can talk a little bit about the history of parking minimums in the city. We had them at one time, and the parking minimums were actually for every building, for every 300 square feet, you would provide one parking spot. That was the law. And everyone was going to the ZBA asking to be let out of that because obviously we just don't have the kind of land that other places have, and you can't build parking everywhere. Also, we just don't want parking everywhere. We don't want to make this into one giant parking lot. So I think this is a good way to gather the money. So in 2019, they did away with all parking minimums. So they didn't make any new laws. They didn't think about this in any way at all. They just said, okay, we're not having parking minimums. So there's nothing.
So is that the first step, is to bring back the?
Yeah. So we would have to bring back something. And let me get to what I've suggested. Based on my,
Can I just?
sure,
First of all, because unfortunately I have to head out because I have to go pick up my daughter and there's no service down there. But just as far as the legal questions here, I mean, a lot of this is policy stuff, obviously.
Mhm.
But the main, and you can certainly, kind of parking requirements with respect to zoning, but, we want to really pin down the authorization to do this the way it's being proposed, the state authorization. There's somewhat a potentially analogous situation that I've encountered in towns, which is when developers, towns often have requirements for recreational space in connection with developments. And they sometimes say in lieu of putting in a housing development, either you have to put in recreational facilities, or in lieu of that, you can make a contribution. The town can require a contribution for park purposes. But there are a lot of very specific requirements that will go along with that. There's a prerequisite that the town must have done a study and determined the need, and it has to be commensurate with an established need through. So these are the kinds of legal questions that I would think might come up in connection with something like this. I know I saw you sent some examples of some other municipalities doing this.
yeah, I have history of those.
State stipulations that are required with doing it, or it may even require individualized authorization. So,
Ken, just
Yeah.
FYI, when the requirements that we had in place before that they were eliminated altogether, the idea at that time was to send this back for new developments, to send it back to the planning board, and the planning board does in fact, but they have no guidelines as to what is reasonable. So as part of the planning board authorization for development, one of the things they look at is parking requirements and whether or not they will meet the need of the development. But there's no quantification, there's no framework for them to look to. So I think part of step one might be taking a look at what would be rational.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do based on the research.
Right. They're two separate, yes, they're two separate issues. Right.
A lot of. It's important to establish that there's statutory authority to do it and to comply with whatever conditions or requirements might go along with that statutory authority. And that's why I was bringing up the one about the parks in the towns. It's commonly done. You can make make a payment in lieu of building parks and recreational areas, but you can't just simply do it. There are a lot of things you must do in connection with it. And so those are the things we want to iron out, make sure that it's authorized, and if so, how, and that's what I mean. Those are the legal questions that I run. The rest of it is more a question of policy and where it's going to go, but that would be my initial area of focus.
Well, I've kind of blueprinted almost all of that. And then in researching other towns, I actually had phone calls and emails out to I don't know what they call themselves there, the village of Port Jefferson and Mount Kisco,
Yeah.
to talk to them about what hurdles they had to go through in order to implement this. But from what I've researched, they're doing it, and they're doing it with great success. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Those are the things that need to be investigated. It seems they're doing it, but it may be more than just simply putting it in the local code. That's what I'm saying. There may be either things that are required from the state or
And an example of that we did recently was, when we reduced the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. We were able to do that because we have maintenance and operation of all of the streets and there were no state streets, so we were able to do it across the board. However, there was a requirement that we get a traffic study by a traffic engineer in place in order to justify and looking at speeds and all this. Jason and I worked on with the traffic engineer.
Right.
It was not a heavy lift, but it was a requirement by the state that we had to do that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Something possibly did it without complying with the law. More specific than that. The legal advisor, sorry, please. I'm not water and I'm not idea, but legal issues, that would be the stuff with time first, is making sure that it's already.
Thank you.
I'm about to lose you, I'm afraid.
Okay, all right.
That's really, again, that's a legal question involved, so I have to start looking at the basis for that.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
But
So I guess there's no reason to talk about this until I figure that out.
I'd like to talk about, I always felt like the first thing that should come back would be the residential development. And I like the numbers that you have. I guess when I think of mixed use / retail /
Are you the proposal?
commercial, yeah,
So the reason I went with 4,000 square feet is because there are any buildings like, and if you look at, if you go beyond what I wrote there, any buildings that are like a small business, they're gonna be under 4,000 square feet. And that was part of the reason that they did away with parking minimums in the beginning. Because
Okay.
they didn't wanna affect small businesses like little restaurants or whatever.
Anything on Warren Street?
Yeah. Those places, the whole buildings are like 3,000 square
Yeah.
feet, you know, so that's why I said over 4,000 square feet. When you look
I was
at,
thinking of the new grocery store, if it happens,
yeah,
would fit this.
yes. And also all of the hotels.
Well, that's a hard one,
Why is that a hard one?
because what Fourth and Warren, that's an example. Union Street Hotel. Those are harder,
I agree.
that's all I'm pointing out.
So, for example, some of the hotels that cater to visitors coming in on the train. They don't necessarily need a parking space for every unit in the hotel. And just for everyone's memory, one of the problems that we had with the parking rules before was that they included a parking space for every number of tabletops in a restaurant,
Yeah.
which was a bit
I'm
like.
not suggesting anything like that.
So, I know you're not, I'm just providing some history. One of the reasons that, like, when they looked at it and it just wasn't realistic, that was one of the things that kind of got into, let's get rid of this and just let the planning board decide what they should do.
Yeah,
So that was,
Well, that's not worked out very well and it's actually not making us any money and we need revenue in order to do these projects. So that's what I'm trying to do.
yeah, and I love the residential one, I think that should be brought back immediately, I just wanted to talk about what level the commercial spaces would be at, and I think trying to address, like, I think they do create issues, but I'm not sure quite how to solve something, like, I'm thinking of those two hotels at the moment. I know the Maker has some, I don't know how you could compare what they have, created. What other things are in the pipeline? I know this,
There's a hotel that's supposed to go in right across from 11 Warren, which is a much larger hotel and they will not have any parking.
right. And I think that's what I wanted to discuss, is how do we address something like that?
Well, if they would help us with
Just
creating
put in the
parking.
requirement and make them pay.
Yeah. Yeah, and that goes for everybody. I mean, obviously we can't do this retroactively. I wish we could. Cause 11 Warren would have to help us. But, you know, if we base it on square footage. Or how many employees a place has, whichever is greater, then we use that as the number of.
That's an interesting question though, too, is like, it's essentially a remodel. Right, that if you were building, like if they build this grocery store,
Yeah.
even though it's on, I don't think they're keeping the building. So that's really a new construction.
No, they're keeping the building. Cas?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're keeping it.
It's definitely getting modified,
Yes.
in square footage.
but they are also addressing parking because they know they cannot have a grocery store.
Yeah, right,
And their philosophy also on the hotel is you can't operate a hotel without providing parking.
yeah,
And so they actually have parking.
I understand, I'm just trying to think, in what way do we require relative to that, because a grocery store actually requires a lot of parking.
Yes, it does.
Um,
And it's one of the reasons why the plan to put a grocery store where Old Hudson is now did not work out. Because there was an independent grocer that was looking at doing something there. And because they could not get permission to put a parking lot right beside it, they didn't think it was viable.
What could be, that's another interesting case study is Old Hudson. Are they,
Well, no, they.
because they expanded,
No, that's not really a grocery store, that's people.
I know, but still, it's still a commercial space that might have fit
Right.
to require.
Well, the reason I'm bringing up this other case is that this was going to be fairly standard grocery store where people could do a weekly shop.
Yeah.
And they did not think they could run the business without parking, and that was one of the reasons why I thought through this. Is about
Well,
12 years ago.
It probably does,
This solves all of those problems. If someone were to in lieu of the parking spaces, give us the money so that we could build more parking or build parking on already parking. Things where parking
No,
exists.
We're not saying this isn't a good idea. I'm just explaining something historically that related to that, where a business decided they couldn't do business because they weren't permitted to.
And let me ask you a question, because I'm trying to decide in my own mind. I like the residential portion of this. Do you, since I know how you feel about this, as another committee member, how do you feel about the commercial portion of this? Is it stringent? Is
I
it,
don't think you can have a, one size fits all thing based on square footage for commercial. I think you have to look at what type of commercial you can build.
We
So
can be more specific.
I will, yeah. So for example, you cannot have a grocery store without providing adequate parking for people to park near where they're shopping so that they can load their van. So, but honestly, even doing payment in lieu of parking would not have solved the problem for the grocer who wanted to work, to operate on Wall Street.
right?
Because his customers would not want to walk 2 blocks to a parking lot, right? So I think you have to look at the nature of the business, what kind of customer it's going to have. Is it something where it really is necessary that they be able to park close? If you don't need to park close, then yes, providing parking elsewhere would work. I think you have to look at the context of the business.
Yeah,
That's all.
I kind of feel the same way. That's why.
Okay, I can get you all of that. I've already done it. It's in a different document that I have. I can give it to you. I can give you broken down by business or whatever. I just thought this was simpler. And it was actually a little bit more fair than some of the more stringent things that were applied to specific businesses. So, but I can go back and get it all.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Do you think this is a two-step process, Margaret? As
Well,
meaning
yeah,
bringing back the requirements
yes,
first and then,
yes.
and then the pilot?
yeah, I think we need to begin by trying to establish some reasonable requirements. And then separate from that is, if you cannot meet these requirements, then, you have to
Back. Yeah.
But I think there are certain situations where you may not, could be that you shouldn't be allowed to just pay for not parking.
That's, I think that's a good point,
But
because
I also,
say the other grocery store, you're gonna.
but I also think that a business person opening a business where they know that really is a necessity, they're not gonna want to just pay and not have parking because their business will.
You think that, but I think some of the hotels have pushed
Yeah,
that.
the hotels,
They pushed that.
yes, the hotels are slightly different, but yes, I agree.
I think a lot of the businesses would be willing to pay into it because it would help them in the long run. Because if we could afford nice things like municipal parking lots that didn't have giant holes in them and lines on the ground and actual signage, maybe some landscaping, or maybe a shuttle bus that went from municipal parking lot to municipal parking lot and took people up and down the street, they wouldn't need to put in. They could park their car somewhere far away and then be shuttled in. We could also have nice crosswalks so that the people visiting here don't get hit, you know? I don't know, I feel like I've been talking about this for a very long time, and every time I come back with a more enhanced version of what I've already done, I'm being told we need more. So just tell me what you really need and I'll put it together and I'll bring it back to you.
So we'll keep this on the agenda for next month.
So specific businesses, that's what you want next? Okay, got it. And I'll try and look into what the state would require, if anything.
Logan, do you have any questions?
No.
Any public comment, anyone?
It's very interesting and that's through the struggle that was the parking meetings. And a lot of effort and work went into this and Jimmy's got a very interesting idea. I'll touch on parking authorities, but first, this whole payment in lieu of parking. I imagine you would have to have like a project in mind where you're gonna have all this additional parking, and I can't.
So
Can I just finish, my speaking, and unless you wanna say something?
yeah, it relates directly to what you're talking about. There have been so many projects in this city that are sticking out really hardcore in my mind. They've created real problems.
I need to see that, from my envision this, I would need to see that, maybe I haven't.
11 Warren
Well, that was a travesty.
and the Pocketbook Factory.
No,
There,
travesty.
and also, if Galvin had been successful in making his building and filling it up, we'd have a real problem there too. So, you
Well,
know,
that should never have been allowed, in my thinking, the 2019 thing, change that. So let me just finish my point. Thank you. So I would hope that we would have some ultimate ideas, and if you have them, you just told me 3 failures. I'm talking about what is the successful thing that you're gonna build that's gonna allow, it's gonna hold, has the capacity to hold all this additional parking. Is it 100 spots, is it 200, 300, 5,000? I don't know. So what are you envisioning saving all this money for?
it's in my proposal.
Well, I'm trying to see your proposal, I'm just saying, so we need to know what the end result is. All right, but anyway,
there's
can I
no
just,
thing.
I get one more point and then I'll be done. I think if you really want to do something like this, you might consider something like a parking authority. Where you can do bond issuance and things like that, so this is a whole nother, and I really haven't delved into this, this is just from a, what's the word, a casual view.
Well, in the first part of our parking proposal from the parking committee, it says we're creating a bureau in hopes that they will then make it into a parking authority. And that's kind of out of our hands now because there's nobody taking care of parking.
Okay, no other hands raised, correct? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
But